Okay, guys, I was not expecting this. I seriously was not expecting this lore. I had glanced at the Dredge's lore a long time ago, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But now that I've really read it closely, after reading it and really thinking on the lore, this is one of the funniest pieces of Dead by Daylight lore I've read in a long time. This is comedy gold because of the irony of it all. I'm not even kidding. After reading this lore, I'm 95% sure that this lore was intended to do one thing, and yet it went full circle on itself. In an attempt to critique and throw a subtle jab at elite millionaires and religious people, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll let you see it for yourself. No, really, this is too precious. Let's go over the Dredge's lore. You ready? All right. So, welcome to The Fold, a cult established in the 1960s on a private island where the goal was to establish a happy little town full of happy little people led by a happy little man named Otto Stamper, where everyone was, you guessed it, happy. Here in The Fold, there are no dismay, there's no sadness, no fear, no disillusionment. Everyone is peaceful, happy, and joyful. Otto Stamper, their leader, as I said before, taught his followers that the secret to this utopia of happiness is to maintain joy talk, meditation, and the endless reciting of good thinking mantras. That is not my words, that is their words. So yes, you heard that correctly. This is a society built on the idea of thinking and speaking positive vibes. That's right, you want the bad to go away, you want life to be good, just think good thoughts. Don't worry, it gets funnier. Not only do the people of this town buy into this wholesale, but Otto makes sure to banish anyone who admits to having bad thoughts or thinking dark things. If you dared to put more than 1 quarter in the swear jar this week, your ass is gone. Through this, Otto taught and conditions his Ottomarians, I guess that's what you'd call them, to believe that dark and negative thoughts were the root of evil and discontent and chaos. He warned of an ancient god called Druani, and that this god fed on dark memories and desires, and it was vital they expel all darkness from their hearts. Sounds a bit like Druani could be a greater demon of Slanesh to me, but hey, we'll get there when we get there. But as so often happens, the facade of peace and happiness started to slip. The lie began to show cracks, and people began feeling paranoid of each other. If someone even had a bad dream, if someone had a naughty thought, the fear of the darkness made them fearful to even go to sleep because they worried it would bring the darkness and the Druani. They tried all their happy, good-thinking mantras and rituals, but nothing was making things go any better. They weren't feeling better. They weren't getting any healthier. Otto told them that the Druani was among them, and to truly get rid of it, everyone was required to stay at home and forego sleep. Maybe if they deprive the beast of negativity, it'll go away, and because there's a risk you could potentially have a bad dream, you better not sleep. So, to recap for those of you who are struggling to follow, a happy little society that encourages only positive and happy thoughts, words, and deeds. And any wrong thinking is strictly prohibited and even banishment worthy. And now when people start having bad thoughts, their charismatic leader tells them to start doing unhealthy things like isolate and avoid sleep and socialization for fear of spreading the coronavirus. The negativity. Yeah, let's keep going. This gets even better. So Otto finally called the remaining members of the Garden of Joy to the beach, where he had a screaming woman on stage. He claimed that this woman was a journalist who had infiltrated their ranks with the intent to ruin their utopia. The woman does confess that she was a journalist, but that's when she found out something horrible about the society. It turns out, wait for it, that Otto was secretly... You know what? Let me just read this straight from the source here. I'm going to read this word for word. Quote, "He belonged to an ancient cult, an exclusive club of billionaires that took pleasure in corrupting and sacrificing people, towns, and even countries to an elder god." Oh, yes, you heard that right. You didn't go temporarily insane. You actually heard that. An exclusive club of billionaire cultists who take pleasure in sacrificing people, towns, and countries to an elder god. I mean, of course. Of course it's the big bad billionaires. Of course it's the big evil corporate giants who just enjoy sacrificing ordinary people, right? Can you see the oh-so-subtle message of this lore? Are you able to peel back the layers of this top-tier social commentary and see the true evil behind it all? Why, the Dredge isn't the darkness we should fear, but the evil billionaire cultists who worship him are the true evil spawns of Satan we should fear. We'll come back to this point. Anyway, Otto kills the journalist and tells everyone to start thinking happy thoughts again, but the people are too incapable and start turning on each other, killing and beating each other in a mob of fury and fear, which Otto watches with glee as the darkness finally consumes them. From their destroyed and tortured bodies forms a horrifying monster, a creature that is formed from darkness and flesh, as the echoes of the screams, moans, and whimpers of the tortured souls can still be heard from its disgusting form. The Druani, or rather, the Dredge, is born. So, some have argued that this Dredge lore isn't really lore, since Dredge only shows up at the end, but I'd say the real problem with this lore is... okay, how do I break this down? Alright, so, let me try to break down, and maybe you can see why I think this lore is so laughably bad. So, you have a guy named Otto Stamper. He's set up a sort of cult on this small island as a getaway. He is convincing all these people to live in happy joy and bliss, but the goal is to slowly corrode their whole society, torture them, and then kill them and sacrifice them to an elder god. Why does Otto want to do this? Why would Otto want to sacrifice these people to his elder god? What's the goal? Is the Druani going to give him something? Is he going to be rewarded in some way? Is he going to receive money, women, paradise? What does Otto Stamper get out of this? We don't know. Until the journalist reveals it to us. The journalist in the lore reveals that Otto Stamper is part of an ancient billionaire cult. They made sure to emphasize that, by the way. Billionaire cult who take pleasure in sacrificing innocent people to their elder god. No other reason is offered. No other explanation is given. Otto Stamper just wants to sacrifice these people to his elder god because this billionaire cult enjoys it. That, to me, is so laughably stupid. That, to me, is so laughably stupid. Yes, there are psychopaths and sociopaths out there. I'm not arguing that. But most get some kind of, reward out of it. You're telling me that this dude literally sacrifices a whole town, a whole city, or what have you, and has been doing it with his cult for generations, all because they just enjoy it. There's nothing that they get out of it. Really? Really? You expect me to buy that? But that's not even all. See, there's more to this problem. There's more to this. The morons who wrote this lore overplayed their hand with this brilliant piece of political and social satire. And I'll see if I can't point it out. So, like I said, the whole setup is that Otto is trying to convince his cult to engage in nothing but happy thoughts, right? In those guilty of wrongthink, guilty of a lack of conformity to his ideology and dogma, are guilty and need to be purged. So, anyone who doesn't agree with the billionaire, who doesn't agree with the man in power, and is guilty of literal wrongthink, needs to be purged and banned. I'm sorry, which side of the fence engages in accusations of wrongthink? Then, of course, there's the encouragement of unhealthy practices for their own good, like isolation, not sleeping. Next, I suppose that Otto tried to encourage them to take a jab to prevent the potential of more dark thoughts. Yeah, you can see where this is going. In an ironic twist, the evil aspects they applied to Otto to make billionaires look evil only make a certain other group look more evil. And the best part is, I might not have noticed it if they hadn't added in that tidbit about the cult being a bunch of billionaires who enjoy sacrificing people. That line automatically made me groan and realize, it's a subtle jab at the rich and the elite. So I had to go back and reread the lore to find any more subtle clues, only to laugh when I started seeing things that made me see differently. It's bad. It's just bad, guys, but it's also hilarious. It's also hysterical. You could have done so many interesting things with this. What if you had it where Otto Stamper was, say, let's say that he was part of a cult of people who sacrificed people to the Druani, but the problem is no one had gotten anywhere with their sacrifices. They'd sacrificed hundreds of thousands of people to the Druani, but nothing had changed. You could argue that his cult goes all the way back to Babylon when we had the plague. You could say that this is the same God that the plague has been sacrificing things to, but nothing's changed, nothing's happened, and now Otto Stamper is terrified because he's got a terminal illness or something, and he wants the Druani to save him, and finally he gets a message from the Druani saying, all right, I'm willing to save you, but no one's been able to sacrifice enough to me. I don't want just a few sacrifices, mate. I want a whole town. If you can get a whole town sacrificed to me, then I will cure you. I will save you. And so Otto goes, all right, I'll do it. And so he convinces himself that this is the only way to save his life, and he starts having second thoughts, he starts having doubts, he starts wondering what he should do. But over time, he gets more and more paranoid as his condition deteriorates, and finally he pushes it over the edge. They all kill each other, and then the Druani is summoned, and he sees it, and he's terrified by what it looks like. And then the Druani starts to wander off, and he goes, wait, you promised you'd save me. And then the Druani just kind of looks at him like, that's right, I did, and then consumes him into himself like he did all the others. And he's like, wait, what? Then he said, when you're a part of me, you won't die, will you? You'll be a part of me forever. See, turn that on its head a little bit. You could make it that the Dredge, it's kind of been a twister of fate. Like you could make it almost like a Zinch kind of thing from Warhammer. There were ways you could have done this and made it very interesting, but you didn't. You didn't really make us interested in Otto Stamper. You tried to sell the idea, he's an evil billionaire and part of a cult who enjoys sacrificing people. By giving him a reason to sacrifice people, giving him a motivation to do it, you could have given us a lot more interest into Otto's rationale. You could have followed Otto on this whole damn thing. Like, you could have just followed Otto Stamper on this whole thing. His conversations with the Druani, the rituals that he did, why he became part of this cult, what made him want to give up his human empathy. But instead, you're so caught up on the idea that, but they're evil billionaires who do this shit. Really? Really? I would have been far more interested in just hearing the Dredge's story than hearing about this stupid cult, but whatever. So let's go ahead and get into what people really want to talk about, the gameplay, and that means talking about the powers and perks. So what is the Dredge's power? The Dredge's power is Reign of Darkness. Specifically, he has 2 special abilities. The Deluge of Fear, which involves his gloaming, and then Nightfall. Let's start with Deluge of Fear and the gloaming. You start the trial with 3 tokens. By holding the power button, you will enter the gloaming state, where you can become a shadowy husk. You then move your vision to highlight a locker of your choice in any part of the trial, and then you can press the action button to spend a token and fast travel into that locker. You can keep hopping between lockers as long as you keep holding down the power button and simply look to a new locker. Once you run out of tokens or release the power button, you will burst out of the locker you are in. This fast movement speed makes Dredge one of the best killers in terms of mobility and map control. Once you perform a locker teleport, the power goes on cooldown before your 3 tokens are returned to you. Furthermore, if a survivor is in a locker when you teleport to it, or if they try to interact with a locker that you are inside, you will instantly trap the survivor in the locker and then emerge already carrying them. This doesn't happen often, but when it does, it is so satisfying. Survivors can try to counter you, as each locker will have a locking mechanism on it. The lock cannot prevent you from exiting the locker, but it will slow you down, and as such, will allow the survivors to know when you're about to appear. Luckily, once you burst out of a locked locker or strike a locked locker, you can remove the bar for the duration of the trial. A locker that was locked and broken cannot be relocked, but that's not all the Dredge can do. See, each time the Dredge teleports or hits a survivor or hooks a survivor, he adds to his Nightfall Gog. A Nightfall Gog is a meter that, once filled, will activate the map state Nightfall, which goes into the second part of its power. When Nightfall activates, it lasts for 60 seconds, and in that time, the map becomes pitch black to the survivors, making visibility near impossible, while the Dredge will benefit from several effects. First of all, while the survivors struggle to see anything, the Dredge's vision is far clearer, and all survivors are highlighted in white against the darker backdrop. During Nightfall, also, the Dredge is undetectable. He can teleport at twice his normal speed, and the cooldown to teleport is cut in half. Plus, the survivors emit Killer's Instinct when within 16 meters of a locker that the Dredge occupies. By combining the gloaming and Nightfall, Dredge becomes a nearly unmatched killer in terms of map pressure and control, and thus the ending of the match can be downright brutal for survivors, as he can swiftly move between generators very fast to apply pressure on all sides. And while his power is impressive, his perks are unique. So the Dredge has 3 perks: Darkness Revealed, Dissolution, and Septic Touch. Darkness Revealed. This perk is situational, I find, but it can be helpful, and is probably only helpful to characters like Dredge, Trickster, and Huntress, who use lockers more regularly than everyone else. When you search a locker, all survivors within 8 meters of any locker in the trial are revealed for 8 seconds. Then this perk goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. Now, I'll be honest, this perk is perfect for Dredge, who can simply teleport to the locker he notices a survivor near, but for any other killer, it's just a location revealing perk, and I'll be honest, there are better ones out there than this. Plus, it's not always useful, because the way I see it, it's only really useful if it sees the auras of survivors near generators, or working on generators that are near lockers. And what's funny is, I'll let you in on a little secret. Because you as the killer can see the auras of generators, you may actually miss the survivor aura working on the generator because their aura blends in so well with the generator aura. So you may use this perk, turn around and look at all the generators and never see a survivor aura because they're blended in with the generator aura. That happened to me in a match, and I only luckily noticed the aura just in time to make use of it. So it's okay, but there are better aura reading perks. The next one is Disillusion. This is probably Dredge's best perk. 3 seconds after you enter Survivor, by any means, this perk activates for 20 seconds. Now, while this perk is active, when a Survivor fast vaults over a pallet in your terror radius, the entity will immediately break the pallet. This is a great way to help you in the chase, and it ensures that the survivors won't be able to take advantage of down pallets in a hard looping zone. I do like this one, but there is a catch to it. One thing that I kind of worry about with this perk is it doesn't do anything if the survivors decide to drop the pallet. So what this perk requires you to do is you have to chase the survivors near pallets that are already downed, you know? And that can be difficult because some survivors may just loop you endlessly around a pallet they've already dropped, forcing you to break that pallet and thus making Dissolution kind of worthless. I'm not saying it can't be used, because I have used it, and I'll show you a clip of me using it as Wraith, but yeah, perfectly honest, this perk has some problems. And then finally, Septic Touch. I'll be honest, it is hard to know how useful this perk is because I've never noticed it make a difference. Septic Touch is a perk that punishes healing. When a survivor performs a healing action within your terror radius, that survivor suffers the blindness and exhausted status effect, and this will linger for 8 seconds after the healing action is interrupted by any means. Now, the blindness aspect doesn't really do much for me. I don't really care as much about that, but the exhausted status effect. The way that I feel the exhausted status effect helps you is it prevents the survivor from doing any actions like Dead Hard or others that would allow them to evade being hit, because that's the beauty of exhausted, but only lasting 8 seconds. I don't know. I'd probably bump it up to 10 or 12 or something like that. Like, make it a little bit more useful, but that's just me. Anyway, that is the Dredge, guys. Everyone's been asking me to look at this one and ask me about the lore, and I hope that I explained it as best I could. But we are done with Roots of Dread, and now we are moving on to the second Resident Evil chapter, where we were talking about Ada Wong, Rebecca Chambers, and the mastermind himself, Wesker. Everyone's been excited for this one. I'll be honest, I'm not quite as excited because I know so little about Resident Evil. I only just got through the first game, so I got a ways to go. But we will make it somehow, some way. I'm excited, guys. Let's get to it. All right, thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time in the fog. Take care.
You will not live to see the dawn.